So today we're going to dive into what might seem like a really specific corner of the finance world, but stick with me because it's actually going to tell us a huge story about the future of how we all work.
Okay, let me ask you something. What's that one task you do at work? The one that's super repetitive, super time consuming, the one that makes you groan when you see it on your to-do list? We've all got one, right? Well, today we're going to look at what happens when you can just teach a machine to do that task for you.
All right, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll dig into the problem itself, what I'm calling the monthly manual grind. Then we'll talk about the solution, automation to the rescue. We'll see how you actually teach the machine and, of course, the payoff. And then at the end, we're going to zoom out and see what this all really means.
Okay, so let's jump right in. Section 1, the monthly manual grind. And believe me, there are some serious hidden costs to this kind of repetitive work. This quote here really hits the nail on the head. It's not some big, flashy emergency. Nope, it's more like a slow leak, this quiet thing that just eats up time and energy month after month in finance departments all over the place. So what are we actually talking about here? The task is called manual ledger settlement. Just picture this. You've got a giant, messy pile of digital receipts. Some are debits, some are credits, money in, money out. And your job is to go through, one by one, and match every single in with its perfect out partner, all by hand. And I'm not talking about like 10 or 20 of these. We're talking hundreds of transactions that some poor soul has to sit there and manually review and settle. The sheer volume, it's just mind-numbing. So what's the big deal, right? Well, it's not just that it's slow and boring. Think about it. When you have a human staring at rows and rows of numbers, it's so easy to make a mistake. One tiny slip-up, one wrong number, and boom, you've got a massive financial headache to untangle later. This is exactly the kind of work that leads to burnout. But what if there's a better way? There has to be, right? Well, there is. Let's get into Section 2, automation to the rescue. This is where our hero enters the scene. Okay, so the solution has a bit of a technical name, process automation for ledger settlement. Yeah, I know, it's a mouthful, but forget the name. What it does is what's amazing. It's a feature that automatically finds and settles all those matching transactions for you. That whole manual review thing, gone, completely. All right, Section 3, teaching the machine. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, this sounds great, but setting it up must be a nightmare. But actually, it's not like that at all. It's really more like you're training a super efficient assistant. It's surprisingly simple, really. First, you just flick a switch to turn it on. Then you tell it which accounts to keep an eye on. Next, you set a schedule. Maybe you want it to run every night at midnight while everyone's home. But this last step, this is where the real magic happens. You have to define the rules. These matching criteria, this is basically the brain of the whole system. This is where you're teaching the machine how to think. You're giving it really clear, simple logic. Things like, hey, only match a debit and a credit if the dates are exactly the same and the transaction types line up. It's these rules that guarantee it gets the job done right every single time, without fail. Okay, so we've set everything up. We've taught the machine what to do. Now comes the best part, seeing the payoff. So what does this actually look like when it's all up and running? I mean, look at this. The difference is just night and day. On the one hand, you have the before, that cluttered, stressful screen filled with hundreds of lines that need your attention. And then you have the after. Everything's settled. The work just happened automatically in the background. All you see is that one beautiful word, completed. So what's the bottom line here? It's simple. Hours upon hours of that boring, mind-numbing work, it just vanishes. The system handles it now. And that means a talented, skilled person is now free to use their brain for something that actually matters. And this is where we get to the really big idea. Let's zoom out. Because what we've been talking about isn't really just a neat trick for accountants. This is a preview of the future of work for all of us. So when you boil it all down, what have we learned? I think it comes down to three huge things. First, you get more time. And not just time to goof off, but time for real strategic thinking. Second, you get fewer errors. A machine doesn't get sleepy at 3 p.m. It's consistent, it's accurate. And maybe the most important one is a smarter focus. You're no longer stuck in the weeds, figuring out the what. Now you can focus on the why.
Why do these numbers look this way, and what do they mean for the business?
Which really leaves us with this one big final question to think about. We've just seen a perfect example of how software can take over the tedious stuff. So if we let automation handle all that, what are the big, exciting, new problems that we, with our creativity and our ingenuity, can finally get around to solving?